Hey guys, welcome back to the Spector Creative channel. I'm your host, Scott Toy Guru Neitlich, making sure his microphone is actually in front of him. So this works. Sometimes my videos have been a little low lately, I've heard, so trying to work on that. Today, I want to talk about the difference between what McFarlane is doing and what Hasbro is doing in terms of Marvel Legends, and especially when it comes down to price points. So when McFarlane took over DC from Mattel a few years back, they very deliberately wanted to separate themselves from what Mattel had been doing. And they did this by going 1 inch up, 7 inches, and a little bit more stylized. Call it that Todd McFarlane look, which I do like. Todd McFarlane is one of my favorite artists. I wish he was still drawing Spawn. Heck, I wish he was still drawing Spiderman, but that's an entirely different wish. So, looking at what's being offered at retail now, McFarlane has acquired a slice of the Marvel license, which is non-articulated figures at specific scales. And one of those does seem to be sort of the 6-inch, 7-inch scale. And these are basically plastic statues, or what are sometimes called staction figures. In fact, one of my favorite toy lines of all time is a staction line, the Clerks animated line that Kevin Smith put out years ago. And his rationale, I remember him being very public about this, was, well, most people are just going to take these figures and put them on their shelf anyway and never touch them. So might as well just put them in a really cool, dramatic pose and be done with it. It is so much less expensive to do staction figures. I can't even tell you. It's like night and day. Because the big thing you're paying for with action figures is assembly. And with stactions, there's no assembly. You just paint it and you're done. That saves a tremendous amount of labor, which is a huge part of the sort of unseen costs. The others being royalties and and the cost of the actual raw goods and materials, things like that, and overhead, of course, being a big one. So the smaller the company, the less overhead. Like McFarlane doesn't have much overhead, which is why he may offer his figures at a lower price point, because he doesn't have to pay healthcare and for a giant office. I mean, he pays for healthcare for his employees, but he doesn't have tens of thousands of them the way Hasbro or Mattel does. He probably has a couple hundred, if that. So it's one of the advantages McFarlane has always had. What I want to specifically talk about, and this is kind of going to be, I think, part of the license shuffle that's going on, with Mattel getting DC back, probably because of distribution capabilities. That's usually the biggest reason an A-list brand goes with a company, is purely because of their distribution capabilities. And I have a feel well, there's a chance that this in with Marvel that McFarlane has with the stactions could lead to something like what the Marvel articulated license moving over there from Hasbro. I know Hasbro is obviously doing great with Marvel Legends, but there's a lot of talk amongst them about getting out of the toy business, and they haven't really mentioned anything past 2026 at this point. And in the toy industry, they are absolutely working on 2027 and 2028 at this point. I mean, I don't mean Hasbro is, but any toy company, any large toy company with a 2007 or 2008 line, work has started on those lines, because you work 3 years ahead. They're not shipping that product, but they're starting to design it at this point. So if 2026 is Hasbro's last year, I think that it's very clever that McFarlane has sort of gotten his foot in the door with Marvel with these staction figures as kind of proof of concept that I can work with you and I can create product and get it out to mass retailers. I'm not saying McFarlane is going to get the license, but it's definitely a good strategy to try to say, hey, I'm here too. So the point, though, going back, is what I specifically want to talk about are McFarlane's quote-unquote McFarlane Spider-Man and Hasbro's McFarlane Spider-Man, the Maximum series figure coming out, which, yes, I did pre-order one. I would have pre-ordered more if they were $20, but that's, a wish for a long ago. I guess you could say it's an educated wish. So both McFarlane and Hasbro have essentially a 6-inch scale Spider-Man. One is pre-posed in exactly the swinging pose that you would want him in. The other needs to be posed in that, but can be. So the question is, what's the value between both figures? You're paying $50 for both. One pre-posed, one only one way to display him, versus the other has unlimited, and you're paying $50 for both. So why would you pay $50 for a figure that's stuck in one pose? Well, one, you could have gotten it a year ago and been enjoying it. I don't know if it's been out for a year, but at least 6 months. But 2, it is perfectly in that pose without any joints, without any cuts, without any pegs. I know the Maximum Spider-Man probably won't have pegs, but you will see joints. With the Hasbro and with the Maximum one, yes, you can achieve very close to that McFarlane pose, but not exactly it, because that's one advantage of a statue. Be it made of plastic, marble, bronze, or whatever, you can get the exact pose you want because it's a single pose, a staction, hence. So while they're both $50 and you can get a larger scale McFarlane Spider-Man, I should say he's physically larger as well, so he takes up more space. So that's the other thing you're getting. So, but you're kind of getting the same overall satisfaction of having a swinging McFarlane Spider-Man on your shelf. Do you want it to be perfectly in scale? And McFarlane, I said, does have the smaller scale version as well. Not quite the same pose, but I think it satisfies the same itch. Or with the Maximum one, what you're getting, what you're paying for, obviously it's smaller than the McFarlane $50 figure. It's a 6-inch figure. But you're paying for the ability to pose it. And while the poses won't look as organic as a pre-posed statue, it empowers the end user, the collector. The collector has the ability, to move that figure around exactly the way they want. And that's very, very empowering, because whether you want to do a comedy shot or an action shot or just have them waiting for the bus, you're empowered to do that. And that's what you're buying with your $50, is the opportunity to pose this figure and make it your own and have control over it. But if you just want that perfect Spider-Man pose and you don't care about personally having that control over it, then the McFarlane one is for you, because you're going to get a more biologically accurate figurine without any cut joints or, any articulation joints showing, whether it's not just a peg, but, even, like you see in the Silver Surfer, you can see where the joints are. They stand out. When you have a statue, you don't get that. So it's very interesting seeing two of the exact same thing out at the same time, one with articulation, one without, and two different sizes. And I'm really curious, have any of you, are you buying both? Are you buying one or the other? Has one affected your purchase of the other? I think that'd be a really interesting discussion, and love to jump in the comment section on that. All right, thanks for watching, thanks for caring, thanks for sharing. Sharing is caring, and the best way to show support for this channel, and I appreciate it. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video.